Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of February the 19th till 25th, 2024. We have quite an interesting week ahead of us because we do have some energy shifts, which may seem rather minor, but they are actually very important because they will shift our moods and they will shift our attention. And this might be a break, so to speak, a moment of respite that all of us kind of need, because at least partially our attention is shifted away from the collective. However, on the other hand, but from perhaps a different perspective, our attention is going to be shifted back to the collective, but not in the classic expression. Let me specify. This is the week when the Mars and Venus conjunction perfects in the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius, of course, is the collective, and every time that Mars and Venus meet in the sky in a conjunction, that is where the theme is set on partnerships, on, let's say, meetings, on connections. And that is where let's just analyze this energy from a rather more alchemical perspective. Venus is the feminine principle. Venus is the passive element, that which we need, that which we want, that which is our value. In other way, that we need to attract in our lives. Mars is the opposite principle, the doer. This is where when we take initiation, this is when we go after what we want, we take action one way or another. So when these two meet in the sky, this usually represents that we are ready, or maybe this enters into our lives externally, Aquarius, to focus on partnerships. Now, of course, Venus and Mars, this can very well be romantic, but in the sign of Aquarius, it can be very different type of partnership where we might be one element and the partner, the other element, might be a group. It might be a collective. It might be something principalistic, something idealistic. When on first hand, we fall in love, or something like that, with an ideal, with a principle, with a thought, with something that is not necessarily personalized, but it is the principle that resonates very deeply and strongly, that guides us to a group, to a person, to a company, to a job, to a hope and dream being able to be embraced in a practical way, because Mars, as I said again, is the doer. Now, this perfection of the Mars and Venus conjunction takes place on the 22nd. So before that, at the very beginning of the week, so the 19th, we still have both Mars and Venus relatively close to Pluto. And Pluto brings on the intensity that we might have experienced in a very highlighted way this week, all throughout this week, when both Mars and Venus held their conjunction with Pluto. So that, as I said in the previous horoscope, invited all of us through a certain kind of emotional value or power game intensity to look at our lives, what holds power over us, what is our true desire, and what is a desire which wants to, control us, which wants to come to the surface to tell us a message. This energy, where both this Mars and Venus held their conjunction with Pluto, truly reminded us to not ignore very powerful truths in our lives that may come to the surface at this moment. So at the beginning of the week, we still have this very powerful revelatory energy. What is your inner being telling you? Because Pluto can represent the truth, the shadow, basically, which shoots up from our inner being, because it is the realm of the unconscious, you know, Pluto, Hades, the ruler of the underworld, hell, so to speak. That is nothing else than our unconscious, even collectively. And even Aquarius. Aquarius usually represents the higher self. So the collective consciousness, as they say. But Aquarius is dual. And that represents that the collective consciousness also has a collective unconscious, which is usually the sign of Pisces, which also is going to be activated since the very beginning of the week. But I'll speak about this in just a few moments. So this Plutonian intensity, where it conjuncted our where it conjuncted first of all Mars, our will, our focus, and Mars, we must not forget, is not very comfortable in the sign of Aquarius, because it's not just about us. I am, my will, what I want. It also has to correlate, you know, resonate with the collective, because otherwise we just make ourselves, you know, go against the collective tendency. And that, even if for many people that is actually the case, why is it the case? Aquarius is the rebellion. And Aquarius has two rulers. Saturn, the classic ruler of Aquarius, that it represents everything that must not, let's say, upgrade, everything that must not stray from the norm, because there are certain elements of exactly that, the norm, that regardless of how futuristic the tendencies are, they need to be preserved, because they are like pylons, Saturn backbones of our civilization and our human nature, that Saturn has to protect the duality, the dichotomy of Aquarius, you know. A part of it is, of course, all about the future, all about the next, all about the new, the revolution. But the other part of it has to protect the very foundations, you know, of everything. And the other ruler is naturally Uranus, which the opposite. It has to go for the future. It has to break the traditions. It has to break the staleness. It has to reform the traditions and everything, the customs. So these energies are in a way dichotomous in their very imprint and very nature. And this is one of the weeks that we are going to be reminded of both of this. And this is why Pluto is so important, because it highlights everything that cannot or must not or is definitely not going to change. You know, our own Saturnian type Aquarius expression. I'm so sorry to use this very complex and horrible astrological terminology, but you know, Saturn, as I said, everything that must not change, and this is even true personally. And Pluto highlights that. Why mustn't it change? Why is it important for us to embrace something rigid? Aquarius, of course, is fixed air. And while Uranus, at the same time, with the same Pluto, it also highlights that which we must change, that which we must embrace. Certain situations where we cannot stay in the past, because if our present, right, living in the present, is becoming actually the past, outdated, well, then we do need to make a step in this sense. So at the beginning of the week, we're still analyzing this, because Venus is very, very close to Pluto. Let me give you examples. Relationships that are present in our lives, or relationships, types of relationships that we aspire for and have been aspiring for. And this Pluto highlights why they can simply not work. Romantic relationships, this is where, what is your type? Well, many times your type is what blocks union, blocks relationships, blocks romance, dates. Why is that? Because many times our type is not really a heart energy, neither is it an unconscious Piscean energy where, sometimes what the deep instinct requires from us, that is a big truth that we cannot bypass, because our instincts are who we are deep in our genes. You know what I'm it is it is also part of us. But if all of this, the attraction, our type, what we think we want, what we think we need, what we think that brings out the very, very best from us, let's say, if that is purely in the mind, well, chances are that can be dead wrong. You know what I mean? That can be very, very, very not resonant of who it is that we truly are at the core of our being. And Aquarius, as I said, its futuristic nature will definitely highlight this. Where it is that we might not be all that very correct and precise and acting with profound self-knowledge of the kind of partnerships and belonging, where it is that we want to belong in that sense, that we were aspiring for, hoping for. If you go back to the past weeks, to the Aquarius new moon, which took place at that 21 degree of the sign of Aquarius, it is a degree of disillusionment, but all the positive disillusionment, because it highlights everything that we must not really aspire for, because one, either it is not possible collectively speaking, the Aquarius the collective, or two, who it is that we are authentically, Aquarius authenticity, ruled by Uranus planet authenticity, highlighted by Pluto, the truth that is not going to go anywhere. That brings us to wisdom, because we could let go the false aspirations, and we could embrace, or at least open a door, a window, to that which is truthfully us to enter into our lives. But the philosophy of this is easy, but the factual expression is not easy. And the factual expression is something that we begin the week with, because as I said, Venus is still waning, but of course still conjunct Pluto. So it sinks into our emotions, the disillusionment, but also the healthy and the good type of hope. And it is exactly this disillusioning energy that will later on in the week turn into something that might open something truly new before us. A new, for example, we understand the need to let go of our standards, of our expectations, or what we think, Aquarius higher mind, what we think that we need, what we think that we want, what we think that works for us, or who we think that we are and we're really not. Letting go of all of this immediately, because Aquarius is quick, Mars is quick, opens up a new door, a new window, where relationships, hence the Mars and Venus conjunction, connections, partnerships, alliances that maybe are very unusual to us, that we may not have been once comfortable with, but now, as our comfort zones in a way changed, the wisdom of the Plutonian conjunction truly revealed to us what a even better comfort zone for us might be. That means that we are going to be in a way uprooted, because we uproot ourselves from one comfort zone, the usual, the classical, that which was always, embraced by us. We leave that, and that is so hard. That is definitely not an easy energy. In any way, Mars willpower may be there, but we must not forget that Mars is an Aquarius, so it's scattered, but neither in a Venusian way, because can we truly have this inner strength to desire the new, to desire that which is alien to us in a certain way? That takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage. And also towards the very end of the week, both Mars and Venus are going to be perfecting their square with Jupiter. So the square with Jupiter makes this energy in a way really, really wild. Why do I say it? Because Jupiter expands, but Jupiter can also overpromise, or Jupiter can make this conjunction bring into our awareness, into our lives, into our karmic patterns even, because why not? Aquarius is also co-ruled by Saturn, a pretty karmic sign, where connections do take place. But of course, it's more friends, but friends are very important because they are projections of where we belong in the world, principalistically and philosophically speaking. So, or as I said, groups of people united by principle, by common belief, common goal, common humanitarian preoccupations. So this energy is going to be quite surprising. And Jupiter expanding it, well, it can either make this feel very tumultuous, because Jupiter is in Taurus, our comfort zone. As I said, leaving our comfort zone for good and creating a new comfort zone, or finding a new comfort zone. That's not easy. It's positive. It's a must in a way. It is full of wisdom, Jupiter. It is full of justice, because sometimes by abandoning an old comfort zone, we do justice to for ourselves, for our Taurian expression, let's say. But this is not easy. This is not going to come easy. Even if Jupiter doesn't expand this in a way to make it tumultuously, it can be one relationships. And we must not forget that this can very well be a romantic energy as well. Venus, it doesn't matter in which sign she is. One of her expressions always and forever is going to be that love, romance, etc., sensuality. So it maybe you get connected to a type of romantic relationships, to a person who is gonna blow your mind, but that you can imagine amplified by Jupiter, it is gonna blow your mind for good, for in a very very how should I say, intense way, where you won't even know who you are and what you want anymore. This is just an example, but at the same time, this is also true. Job offers, job contracts, any other contract. Aquarius deeply personally, one of its expressions, how loved do we feel? And the Mars Venus conjunction, this is where square Jupiter. Jupiter can represent the energy of judging, especially with Pluto also in Aquarius. But when I say judging, not the bad, not where we judge someone discriminatory, but as in we weigh the situation. You know what I mean? We judge what something is for us, inner judgment. So this is where we might see a partnership that we have in our lives already in a very different lens. Why? Because this is a future-oriented energy. Every partner, as we change, our partnerships have to change with us. They have to transform. Pluto, the planet of transformation. So this is a very important, especially that this is the first Venus and Mars conjunction in this Aquarian activated, and Pluto in Aquarius, activating this. So this is very, very powerful, exactly in the sense that I said, our partnerships, everything that we have in our lives, not just that which is to follow, is transforming and changing along with us. Some, of course, terminate, but this is the kind of termination where when the resonance is not there, there's no drama. There's just like a distancing, like two elements going in separate directions. So this can be actually very peaceful and very harmonious because it just fades away. But that which needs to enter our lives, well, this is where it can pop up unexpectedly. And Jupiter square really amplifies this. But there is another energy that I need to speak about. Actually, another expression of the Jupiter square energy where that can be overpromise, where that can be a bit false hopes, especially, maybe timing wise, because there's a new connection. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's romantic, job, friendships, or finding your soul. If there was any energy which says finding your soul tribe, it's this. Usually, this soul tribe is such inflated, and I'm not even sure how to word this because I don't want to be offensive, but it is a tiny bit BS as it is seen in this modern, hyper realistic way. So, but when there is an energy which actually speaks about that, this is that energy. When it's chances are, if there is a time when it's not BS, then this is that time. Why? Because we can feel this deeply, very, very deeply. We feel the sense of belonging. But with the square with Jupiter, we need to take it slowly. You know what I mean? Because otherwise we just delude ourselves. Otherwise we just work ourselves up. The square with Jupiter tells us, and wisdom of Jupiter tells us, embrace the idea, Aquarius, the idea of it, but give it time to play out in a way that it wants to, if you know what I mean. Because chances are this is fixed square. So us needing to adapt to that is the hard part. Because something can come which is ultimately the epitome of our hopes of dreams, Aquarius. But that may still cause great discomfort in our lives. As positive, as beautiful as whatever it is, the discomfort will ask from us to adapt. And that's not very, very easy. Especially that whatever new alliance or new connection appears in our lives, and as I said, this must not necessarily imperatively mean a person, an ideal, the philosophy of a group or something idealistic totally can also represent this energy, but that has the same effect almost as if it would be a person. However, we need to take it slowly because first we connect in thought, which means that we need to transform in thought. This may need us to abandon maybe some principles, maybe some, the Saturnian expression of Aquarius, maybe some morals that we cling on to. Like if this is, let me give you the best example. If this is a sensual energy, sexual, sensual, romantic energy, and the person is someone that represents the total opposite of a certain moral that we had, but from any other perspective, it ticks any box, you can imagine that it will need us to abandon something that is deeply rooted within us. And we need to abandon it for the sake of the future. So not necessarily that it isn't our greatest truth, but if our greatest truth prevents us from moving into the future, then we need to alchemize it. You know what? Even if it not abandon it, but alchemize it, or be able to live dichotomously, Aquarius. As in, that moral is my big treasure and inner truth, but I also have to go with the flow. So I need to make compromises, Pluto. After this being said, I'm so very sorry for this very long introduction. Let us go through the week. Because maybe from an astrological perspective, it's not as complicated as I make this sound to be. So the 19th is very important for a number of different reasons, because we immediately have the very first energy shift. Let me just highlight this for you on the screen. So this is where, when the sun, you see this sun at energetic Aquarius, but let me move it a little bit, few hours. There we are. So let me just change the highlight on the screen. So we see that the sun just entered into the sign of Pisces. So on this occasion, I would like to wish every Pisces native a very, very heavy birthday period, birthday cycle. May you be blessed in the most gentle and delightful of ways. So the sun moving into Pisces is immediately very important, because it shifts the energy, the light of our consciousness, from the hyper intellectual Aquarius and the collective, everything that is in the collective, good and bad, and that is so much needed, into Pisces, the collective unconscious. This is where whatever happened in the past months and weeks, even past year, this is when we really try and process it deep within ourselves. And also, this is the period of every year when the sun moves into Pisces, when we release. This is a period, a cycle of every Pisces season. Amongst the specifics of the period is also hand in hand with releases, detoxes, purges, but purges understood in a smaller way, not in a dramatic, although with Saturn in the same part of the sky, this Pisces season is going to be quite a powerful purge, when we are the rulers of all of this, Saturn. We how should I word this? We like execute, perform all the duties that we have to towards our inner self, towards our unconscious, towards those parts of our being which are usually hidden under the shadow Pisces, the unconscious. So yes, this is gonna start a period of healing for everyone, profound psychological healing. But, however, this isn't the typical expression, because we had the typical expression in the past few years in so very many different ways. Remember when the South Node was in Scorpio? That was a big purge. Eclipses on the Taurus Scorpio axis. If besides anything else, that was also big purge. Taurus purges of values, value system, and Scorpio powerful, potent psychological purges. You know what I mean? Then before that, we had Gemini eclipses, mental purge. This is where the lower mind has to let go of the bad self-talk and chitter. So we had these type of purges. Saturn, however, with in the sign of Pisces, along with the Sun now, and in a few days from the 19th, also Mercury. That's where we are rulers of this purge. This is where we take control of what we can. As in, we take all the lessons of the past years, past 5 years, even 6 to 5 years, and we apply that wisdom. We build on the past purges, because Saturn is ultimately building. So we sweep out all the reminiscence and we start adapting a healed position. This is where we abandon self-victimization. We abandon everything I can't, I don't have, everything that we condition ourselves with, and really tune into that which we have to build up. So this is a really, really important Pisces season. But that is one of the highlights of the beginning of the week. And also, as we can see here, Mars and Venus are already starting to dance with one another. They're gonna tango all week long, but they're still conjunct Pluto. But this is where, as we progress through the week, the Plutonian energy is gonna wane. At the beginning of the week, it's still like a valid triple conjunction. So again, this is when it sinks in what types of hopes and activities and desires and wishes and principles and ideals and people and friends and aspirations, generally speaking, we need to abandon. What is definitely not going to be part of our lives, no matter how much we obsess, Pluto, on it. And also what needs to take its place, what we must aspire for, where it is that we truly need to put our hopes into, because the hope is one of the greatest powers in the universe. Venus, the love part of hope, Mars, the action part of hope, and Pluto, the truth of that hope. This is a powerful quantum energy that is just building up. Also, at the beginning of the week, another aspect that will stay with us all through February, really, the Saturn and Jupiter sextile. Now, I spoke about this energy in almost every horoscope, but this grounds us. This gives us the executory, the manifestory part of our hopes. So this is so very important because there are certain energies and attitude, Saturn, work and sacrifice and strength, inner strength that we need to cling on to. There are things that what Pluto highlights that we need to release and not cling on to, but Saturn and Jupiter, the sextile, empowers the healthy clinging on to strength, clinging on to love, clinging on to being there for yourself, clinging on to I can do this. Everything that you're working on, and it is building before your eyes, but that requires strength. And we might get tired, we might get grumpy, we might get emotional, we might get a bit lost along the way. But then being there for ourselves, this sextile really, really helps that. And justice, earthly justice may fail us, and we see this play out on the world stage in the most relevant way possible. The example is there. And this is not my opinion, this is the lived example, the International Court of Justice. In philosophy, it's absolutely wonderful. In real life, it has absolutely no, it's zero. It's make-believe. Sadly, very, very sadly. You know what? It's sad that it's like that, but when international justice fails us, earthly, secular justice, the divine justice is something we can trust one way or another. So yes, that sextile, not just through this week and through the past weeks, but mostly all through February, is the saving grace. And then I also have a special recording about this, what I'm about to say. So that's why I'm not going to focus on it in this horoscope. Chiron's conjunction with the North Node, that also stays with us all through the week and all through February. And this, along with Saturn, with Pisces season, and with Mercury entering into the sign of Pisces soon, this is all about healing, different dimensions of healing, and what we are doing with the wounds and wounding, both individually and collectively. But you can see how very important this healing is, even if we relate it to the Mars and Venus conjunction. Why? Well, many limitations in partnerships and us being open to new connections may source from relationship wounds. Chiron conjunct the North Node, finally, if we let it go, if we embrace courage, and if we understand that Aquarius energy many times nullifies our past experiences. Why? Because certain things played out in a certain way in the past, and being cautious and the wisdom and the experiences we embraced meant something in the past, but when we are different, when the world is different, when the energy is different, when the divine plays a different tune collectively, a different music, if you will, then the very same thing that was in a certain way in the past may play out so differently in the future. So the courage to believe in the future, you know what I mean? So all of this is so important for healing, letting go of certain relationship fears, letting go of certain rigid caution that we cling on to due to wounding, and the fears, of course, that we'll be wounded again. Many times fears are not irrational, but this Aquarian vibe and energy does demand us to be brave and embrace that which we can, especially that which comes towards us. Now, don't get me wrong, Aquarius is usually about not taking risk. Yes, leap of faith, but that's quantum. You know what I mean? That when we have a quantum leap, basically, that may not consult our courage because something pushes us there without us even knowing. What courage do we need there? Usually, Leo is the sign of risks, the opposite sign of Aquarius, and taking courage based on, the heart and, the passion, the spur of the moment. Aquarius wants to have security. Why? Because it has foresight, because it has intelligence, because it has understanding, because it is Uranian, where Uranus represents Mercury's higher octave, super intelligence. When we solve a problem with super intelligence, then we are not really taking risks, are we? Let me give you an example. When you understand that something has 60% chance of success and you take a risk based on that and you get a success, well, that wasn't a risk really, was it? Because your mind understood 60% that where the pendulum is already swinging in your favor. That's not success. Or Uranus and Aquarius predictions. When you do take an action because something within you or what in however means predicted something, like how is that a risk? That's not a risk. Leo is when you feel something deeply, but there's no chances. You don't know the chances. Your mind is not there in understanding. This is where you simply have no clue how the chances would weigh mathematically. How many percent is the chance of success? But you follow the feeling and something happens. You took a risk. You know what I mean? Aquarius is the opposite of this. Like when you buy a lottery ticket, because you feel something, you feel it in your gut or in your heart or whatever. Well, would you look at the chances that it defeats you immediately? No. When you feel that, you just go buy a ticket and there it is. The doors of the mind are closed immediately. You took an action, you don't care about the rest. The mind is not going to be involved anymore. That's the type of Leo expression. So, yes, Aquarius does need us, especially with this energy, to be open to the new that comes our way without a shadow of a doubt. And the example I use with the percentages, 50-50, or however the percentages weigh, that is where when the percentage is in our favor, when the mind understands that the benefit is starting to be greater than the risk, hence the wounds and healing. When, being cautious slowly and surely turns to the not the favorable choice, then, it's a different type of risk. It is a different type of opening ourselves to the new. This is why as slowly as we progress into the month, even into the year, This is when, as I said, the percentages start appearing in a different way than they have done in the past. So this is where it's no longer, 50-50 or how the balance was in the past. This is where those percentages, I'm not sure I can explain this in any other wording. No, the probabilities, this is when they are changing. So that which was zero probability in the past might be something totally different in this imminent future. But if you want to, again, if you want to listen to the Chiron and North Node conjunction in greater detail, I have a specially recorded video that I'm going to link below. Check it out if you're interested. Now let's get to the 22nd, because that is very important. So here we are on the 22nd. As you can see, Mars and Venus are conjunct by the degree and almost by the minute. So this is very, very important because, as I said, the Venus and Mars conjunctions usually represent the new cycle to form partnerships. And the specifics, the tune, the frequency of the cycle is given by the sign. And this sign is none other than Aquarius, futuristic. The archetype of the revolutionary, of the rebel, of the alien, but this into in this day and age, I wouldn't even surprise if this means something literal, to be totally honest with you. But the maverick, the ingenious, the inventor, the eureka type of person. So a very, very Uranian type of person, so to speak. But replace person with ideal, with group of people, with hopes and dreams and world views, even perceptions of the world, because this is the higher self. So whoever or whatever enters your life during this conjunction might be really, really unusual, different, but it might excite your senses. As long as you're open to new and willing to give it a try, this can do a lot of good in our lives. Why? Because exactly this type of energy will bring forth that which we usually never had. You know what I mean? That which we usually either strayed away from or quantumly we were simply not entangled. So maybe these types of relationships, partnerships, connections, anything like that, maybe we were totally invisible mutually. So this might not have even existed in our inner world even. Now this changes. How? With Aquarius, this is where what we expect, chances are it's not really going to be that. So let's see and wait. But I also want to show you something else. Look at this. So if Venus and Mars, when they conjunct, they always mean partnerships, amongst other things. We have a triple conjunction here. Orcus. Orcus is a planetoid which in a way is similar to Pluto. It highlights the truth, it highlights the shadow, it highlights the uncomfortable, but to fix it. Pluto usually to eliminate it, to transform it. Orcus prefers to fix it, and even in physical reality, they are so similar. They are both a system where they are tidally locked with their moon, or Pluto with Charon, Orcus with its moon Vant. So they're very, very similar energies. So this Orcus is based on, fixing something. Virgo, maybe in this case, healing. Juno, the planetoid, the asteroid of partnerships. Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith, in this case, can also highlight that which our innermost being, the inner animal, is cautious of. You know, try and understand this energy when there is a stray animal or an animal who was abused. Of course, they are going to be very, very diligent and scared at first. So this Black Moon Lilith, and especially in Virgo, may represent something that our inner being is kind of scared of, but in the sense that I explained in the example. Orcus heals it, fixes it. Juno, but a new partnership for the sake of a new partnership. At the very end of the week, on the 25th, this is going to be a quadruple, or I'm not sure how to, a conjunction which will have 4 elements, because the moon is going to join this bunch. And the moon is the feeling. So this to me says that we are very likely to expect new partnerships of any kind knocking at our doors, but that which are profoundly healing. And you see the Chiron conjunct the North Node, quincunxes, this triple conjunction, and on the 25th, the quadruple, or how you call it. So a quincunx, of course, it represents the element of surprise and the shock that we do need to heal and choose healing, or choose to do something with our wounding, because something knocks at the door surprisingly, unexpectedly. It evokes our shadow, our fears, our past wounds. However, we need to take a reaction, perhaps a choice, or we need to Virgo analyze the situation in an atypical way, because the quincunx demands it. And then we get to deeper understanding and a totally different choice, which will have a totally different outcome. And we must not forget that karma is also brewing deeply, because Saturn is already covering new ground in the karmic sign of Pisces. So this is where outcomes, finalities, terminations are different than usual. So usual to us personally, of course. And now what I really want to focus on, which I find very important. You know the conjunction of this Venus and Mars? The Sabian symbol of the 6 to 7 degree of Aquarius. I love this so very much because it says a child being born out of an egg. So an egg cracking and a child is born from it. This is so symbolic. On one hand, the egg is a very, I do believe, one of those symbols which appears in every culture, every part of the world, and in any timeline. The egg is always so symbolic of the new life, but also where creation is protected by a shell until it is ready. And of course, the egg is one of the epitomes of metamorphosis, because inside the egg, very powerful transformation, evolution, growth occurs always, regardless of which egg is it, egg of a bird or of insects, or spores, or our own, how should I say, reproductive cells. An egg is an egg. It is always a symbol of life. And the child symbol, Leo, you know what I mean? The opposite sign of Aquarius. And how should I say, the atypical expression of the symbol where a child is born out of this, that represents the quantum. That represents Uranus. That represents, the creational force of chaos. Where, for example, mutation. What doesn't kill the organism makes it stronger. Because mutation, usually is not, it is usually lethal, because something becomes something which is very alien to the organism, but within the organism. Like, for example, I have to use the C word, if is mutation, but it has bad repercussions. You know what I mean? Mutation which is benevolent, mutation which gives exactly X-Men. This is the best possible example. A superpower, well, that is ultimately a quantum leap. That, and with the but we must put it into context. This isn't a new moon. This is Venus and Mars conjunction, which means a partnership, an alliance, not in a Libra way, but in an Aquarian way, friends, a new community, a new dimension of society, a new dimension of your own principles and higher way of thinking. In any way, shape, and form, this is something new. So you're met. You go, but you're also met. You know what I mean? This is like a quantum entanglement, so to speak. And on the other hand, speaking about mutation, transformation, Pluto. Pluto is still in the neighborhood at 1 degree. It entered already 1 degree of Aquarius. Very important. So Pluto itself is also almost covering new ground. And we must not forget the Juno, Black Moon Lilith, and Orcus triple conjunction. All of these represent quantum. So very, very important. But all of this can also represent healing. A wound. If a wound causes a mutation, metamorphosis, with this Chiron and North Node conjunction, that can lead to something unexpected. The creational, again, power of chaos. Something that born is out of chaos, many times is not bad, many times it's useful. And, ultimately, the X symbol, fertility. The genetics are ruled by chaos, by chance, because we don't know. We may anticipate a child that is born from partnerships, but we cannot know for certain. And even the gender of a child is by chance, chaos. We have no control over it, and neither can we anticipate it before the action. We can't. It's always like throwing a dice. So I find the Sabian symbol very, very relevant in so very many ways. For people who are in an existing partnership, you quantum leap together, Mars, Venus. It doesn't even matter. Even same-sex couples do represent the Venus and Mars, because one is usually more Venusian of the partners, the other is more Martian. So, this applies to any kind of couple, any kind of partnership. I would even go as far to polyamorous partnership, because if a sign rules that, well, that is definitely Aquarius. So, actually, for some people, this is going to be the expression. Mars and Venus conjunction will open the door to a third party or a polyamorous connection. But anyway, this is just one of the many possibilities. But the Sabian symbol, I find this very, very fascinating, because this actually means a quantum leap. But that quantum leap can represent in our modus operandi Mars, but also in our value system, Venus. For example, investment. And if we depersonalize this energy, without a shadow of a doubt, new technology, new branches of science, new anything that has to do with futurism is appearing. It is gonna actually be put on the world stage, in the public's eye, in the public's awareness. We must not forget that all of this started when Pluto entered into the sign, ingressed into the sign of Aquarius. It has done so with the sun, along with the sun, hand in hand with the sun. The sun is revelation. The sun is shedding the spotlight. So besides anything else, this Mars and Venus conjunction is going to be the same technologically or scientifically or in any way, shape, and form that has to do with the practical applications of Aquarius. Even, with space, cosmology, and anything or anyone that might be a resident of space, because we are included here. We are residents of the galaxy. So maybe we are going to meet, or something reaches the news about other residents, because this is ultimately a connection here, Venus and Mars. But, this can also represent different alliances on the world stage, not politically and all that stuff, but different inventors, different scientists, different tech companies, different specializations where there's this type of scientist and a totally other branch of science go hand in hand. So this is a big upgrade and quantum leap in so very many different ways. Now let's move on to the 23rd. Mercury enters into the sign of Pisces. You may not see it on my screen, but let's. Is it all right now? Not yet. There we are, all good now. So you can see Mercury here at 0 degrees of Pisces. Now, I find this not just important because of Mercury's energy shift, because this happens every single year, and Mercury is never 1.5 signs away from the sun. But this is also very important because our mental sphere shifts. This is where, when mentally we are stepping out of the hyper rationalization of Mercury in Aquarius. Mercury loves being in Aquarius, but everything is, even from what we love too much is not so helpful, and enters into a part of the sky where it's debilitated. But this debilitation, I find this so good. Why? Because Mercury in Aquarius, especially when it held the square with Uranus, that's hard. The news, whatever is happening collectively, and also our own friends and any kind of connection stresses out. The tumultuous connection, it makes the mind anxious, ADHD, and just wanna not be there anymore. We get exactly this break with Mercury and Pisces. We go within emotion and trying to understand everything from a very deep perspective, which is not necessarily very rational, but more like emotionally intelligent. So I find this very, very useful. But also, as Mercury enters here, it swifts, it gets very swift, and it is going to conjunct the sun, not this week yet, but that's what is preparing for. So you can see Mercury sandwiching the sun. Mercury at 0 degrees of Pisces, the sun at 4, Saturn at 9. This is like a triple conjunction where it is the sun that connects Mercury and Saturn, both of them. So this can be a reality check. This energy is also good for healing. This energy is also good for, hospital visits, medical checkup, getting to the bottom of a problem, medical problem. Why? Because Pisces is one of the medical signs. It rules the water within us, our blood chemistry, our hormones, etc., etc. Co-rules, better said, because Scorpio is also part of that. And a few days after this 23rd, so no, sorry, a day after the 23rd, on the 24th, we have a full moon in the sign of Virgo, a medical axis, Pisces, Virgo, medical axis. So this energy in so very many ways is really good for any type of healing. Again, I must highlight the obvious. Chiron is conjunct the North Node in Aries, that is taking initiative towards healing or healing the self. But then Saturn, the responsibility we have to heal ourselves and to always protect our even physical self. Saturn, the physical, which means to going to a therapist, to a healer, um, physical or not, because this is also very, very good for, or better said, ideal for psychological, emotional, and spiritual healing. But at the same time, this is also good for like down to earth, like hospital, laboratory, treatment, therapy, a lot of people, operations of any kinds. And with this being said, I would like to wish a very lovely listener of mine, Mary, the best of luck and blessings for her operation. So this energy is really, really good. And also Saturn, when Saturn will ultimately conjunct Mercury later on next week, diligence, responsibility of the medical world. And now let us get to the full moon, where I'm not going to speak about this in detail because I have a special recording. Check it out if you're interested, sorry. Uh, on one hand, it will shed light on something on the medical world because this is a medical axis and the full moon revelatory, a solution, something positive, something delightful because it holds a trine with Jupiter. So this may be, from a medical perspective, really good news for a lot new treatments, new therapies, or a certain kind of research proved to be working like a charm and being released. But this is also really good for us to embrace much healthier daily routines or beneficial daily routines from a spiritual perspective, Pisces, or down to earth perspective, Virgo. And this is also good for healing plants, alternative treatments, plant medicine, sound, or anything that has healing properties. We can give it a good try. So again, if you're interested about this Virgo full moon, just check out the recording. And finally, at the very end of the week, we have the Venus and Mars squaring Jupiter, which I'm not going to be speaking about because I said in great detail at the beginning of this recording. So Jupiter expands. Something new is coming into our lives, but that new will blow our mind. So we need to be careful not to overdo it with Jupiter. For example, Mars and Venus conjunction many times can represent investment because Venus is a financial energy. Even if the opportunity arises, we need to be diligent. We need to work on its own timing, not rush it, not overdo it, not, let it overwhelm us or cause certain kind of fears. Because many times, if an opportunity is very good, it ticks a lot of boxes. We sometimes we get fears that, is this too good to be true? Is this some kind of trick? Can I do this really? Why is it so opportunistic? Why is it so ideal? Jupiter. This is due to the Jupiter square. With any Jupiter square, tune into wisdom, tune into your deeper faith, but not the false faith. You know what I mean? And also on the world stage, this Mars and Venus conjunction can represent, with the square Jupiter, whatever news reaches us, financial crisis or big debates, and we can see this even now playing out on the world stage about money, collective money. What did you do with the money? For example, in the COVID period, where politicians have to answer, or what is the decision of what happens with the current finances, the US, where the Mars war, Venus money, the bills with the Ukraine aid and the Israel aid, people are demanding politicians what, but actually even people are split up. Aquarius, the dichotomy. Some agree, some do not agree, and this is like a ideological battle, as it always should be, because every contradiction should be an ideological battle. So you can see the heated and passionate debates and all of that. So squared by Jupiter, whatever reaches the news may not necessarily be true in the measure that they present it in. You know, take everything with a pinch of salt, because every truth that is public also has a lot of not truth in it, if you know what I mean. And also at this time, we see, let me just show this to you, the quadruple conjunction that I spoke about earlier on. Orcus, Moon, Juno, and Black Moon Lilith hold this triple conjunction at 15 degrees, Lilith 16 degrees of the sign of Virgo. So this is a minor, but still an emphasis of Virgo. Virgo, anything that has to do with the medical world and our analytic minds and discrimination. And because Black Moon Lilith is there and Juno, maybe this will have like real legal, the proper discrimination as well, in the sense that fixing it, Orcus, putting it right, it is alarming. So this calls for solution. So I find this quadruple conjunction quite positive, even if it holds an in conjunction, a quincunx with Chiron North Node conjunction. It is random, it is unexpected, it is severe, like stressful, or it really screams for a solution. And if we look at what's happening on the world stage, we see why. We see how this quincunx is playing out, because this quincunx is the quincunx between Orcus and Juno. That's not linked to the 25th. That is already and has been for a few days with us, even in the now. And we see how that plays out on the world stage, that it's urgent, that is, the world is screaming for solutions, you know, Orcus. But Orcus is also the punisher of oath breakers. So what is promised on the world stage, if those promises, if you don't agree to it, it's no problem, because you didn't promise. But if you agree to it and you don't hold it, then Orcus likes to punish in an abyssal way. You know what I mean? It's the divine justice, but in a rather cruel way, if you know what I mean. Because, as I said, Orcus re-educates. Orcus doesn't eliminate. Orcus forces anything to respect its divine design. So in this sense, I do believe that it's quite useful. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the beautiful comments and all the lovely words. I am really grateful. And thank you for everyone's support. And I'll leave it at this. I'm wishing everyone a blessed and beautiful full moon at the end of the week. So until next time, bye for now.